right, so 11 and 12 under seal.
And during an autopsy, are you able to determine a person's exact time of death?
No.
And why are you unable to determine a person's exact time of death?
To be short, the science is unreliable and not quite there. There's a lot of different factors, including why somebody has died, what physiologically is going on inside of them that change things that happen after death. There's a lot of things in the circumstances and the environment around them, the temperature, the light, the airflow that can change the rate at which things change after somebody has died. So it makes it difficult and unreliable to pinpoint an exact moment that somebody has died.
And when you perform an autopsy, what does that entail?
An autopsy is a comprehensive examination of somebody after they have died. It is documenting as they are received. It is documenting things externally, so as simple as hair color and eye color, any injuries on the outside of their body. Then an incision is made and an internal exam is completed, documenting any natural pathology, any injuries on the inside of the body as well.
And do you take photographs when you perform an autopsy?
Yes.
And did you take photographs during these autopsies?
Yes.
I'd like first to talk about the autopsy of Joe Ryan. Were you able to determine his height and weight?
Yes.
And was his body clothed when you began your exam?
Yes.
After documenting the clothing, what did you do with it?
The clothing was removed, photographed, and packaged and transferred to law enforcement.
And did you take any physical samples from his body?
Yes, I did.
Can you describe what physical samples you took and what you did with them?
What's called a PERC kit was completed, which is a physical evidence recovery kit. It's something that consists of specific samples to include head hair, swabs from the oral cavity of the mouth, the underwear, comb of the pubic hair, pulled pubic hair, genital swabs, and anorectal swabs. Also, a sample of blood on a blood card and fingernail clippings. In addition to that PERC kit, I also did swabs of the palms and the backs of the hands and fibers from one of the hands as well.
And what did you do with these samples after you finished collecting them for the physical evidence recovery kit?
I placed them in sealed bags and transferred them to law enforcement.
And can you describe for the jury what your physical findings were from the examination of Joe's body?
He had 2 gunshot wounds.
And where were those 2 gunshot wounds located?
There's a gunshot wound of the head. The entrance was on the right side of the head. And there was a gunshot wound of the chest, which with the entrance on the left side of the chest.
I am going to first show you Commonwealth 13, and I'd ask that to be displayed to the witness and counsel only at this point. And Judge, as we described, these photos are sealed.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Do you recognize this photo?
I do.
And how do you recognize it?
It's a photograph from Autopsy that has the ruler with the case number N2023-00363 on it.
And what does the image depict?
It is a right profile view of Mr. Ryan's head.
And is it a true and accurate depiction of the wound as you saw it and when you performed Joe Ryan's autopsy?
Yes.
Judge, I'd ask to admit this as Commonwealth 13 and publish it to the jury.
Any objection?
No.
All right, 13 under seal to the jury.
Can you tell the jury what is meant by the terms entry wound and exit wound as it pertains to a wound caused by a bullet?
An entrance wound is where a bullet enters the body. An exit wound is where it might exit the body and leave the body.
And were you able to tell if this wound to Joe Ryan's head was an entry or an exit wound?
Yes.
How can you tell that this bullet was an entry wound?
It's an entrance wound. It has a characteristic round appearance with an abrasion to the edges of it. And And also, there is no exit. A bullet was recovered from the wound path within his head.
And what means, if any, exists that would inform a medical examiner's determinations regarding the distance from which a person had been shot?
When a gun is fired, not just does the bullet leave the muzzle, soot, dirt, debris, there is burning gunpowder flakes that are leaving the muzzle as well. And if the gun's fired close enough to the person, the skin, it can be deposited and cause some characteristic injuries on the skin. If it's fired from farther away, those particles are light enough that they kind of drop out and they don't leave any evidence.
Were you able to make any determinations about the physical distance between Joe and the person who shot him from your examination of this head wound?
Based on this examination, the distance is indeterminate. There's no evidence of soot or stippling on the skin of the wound.
And in relation to where the entry wound is located, can you tell us where and how the bullet traveled after entering Joe's head?
The bullet entered the skin on the right side of the head, injured muscles of soft tissue, the skull, the facial bones, the bones around the eye, the right eye, and the left cheek, and caused fractures of the base of the skull, bleeding on the brain. And it traveled from right to left, back to front to back, and downward.
And given the path of travel of the bullet through those areas, which of Joe's bodily functions might have been impacted or would have been impacted, and how?
It is causing, the wound path caused bleeding on the brain, which is an injury of the brain. It impacted his eye. He can no longer see, he has no eye. There's evidence that there was breathing of blood, hemoaspiration, and swallowing of blood.
And what if any effect would you expect this injury to have on a person's ability to see, speak, or make vocal sounds?
So the injury, the gunshot wound path injures the right eye. The left eye is still intact. He could see, potentially. To be able to speak or make noises, the injury is not of his larynx where the vocal cords are, where the sounds are generated, so potentially could still make noises. There's no physical injury of that area.
And in the course of your work as a medical examiner, are you able to quantify in terms of time the speed at which a bullet wound would be able to kill someone?
Sometimes.
And can you describe those temporal differences? How you would describe them?
There are times when I can say a wound is immediately or instantly fatal, and that's typically when it's an injury that disconnects the brainstem and the head, ceasing breathing and heart functions. This wound is still intact. This wound is considered rapidly fatal, meaning seconds to minutes, injuring vital structures of the body with some survival.
And given that you found no exit wound caused by this bullet, were you able to locate the bullet, and where was it?
Yes, a bullet fragment was recovered from the left cheek just in front of the left ear, and bullet fragments were also recovered through the wound path in the head.
And what did you do upon locating this item in Joe's head?
The bullet fragments were photographed, placed into a bag, and sealed and transferred to police.
And at this point, I'm going to retrieve Commonwealth's Exhibit 14. I'm going to pass up, if I could, what I'm identifying as Commonwealth's 14. And I'm going to ask if you're familiar with that exhibit.
Yes, I am.
And how are you familiar with it?
It is a bag containing my bag, which I sealed, and that bag contains a note card labeled fragments, my signature, as well as the fragments.
And is this exhibit in the same or substantially similar condition beyond the packaging as when you removed those from Joe's head during the autopsy?
It is.
And Judge, at this point, I'd ask to admit and publish Exhibit 14.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, 14. How do you wish to publish?
Judge, we'll just leave it there at this point in
Okay.
time because I'm going to move on to
All right, that's fine.
a few other things, and then we can publish a bit later.
Okay.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Commonwealth's Exhibit 15 photograph, and I'd ask for this to be displayed to the witness and counsel only. Can you see the photograph?
Yes.
Can you tell us what this image depicts?
It's a photograph after Mr. Ryan has been cleaned up from his head down to his torso.
And how do you recognize it?
It also has the ruler with the case number.
And is this a true and accurate depiction of this chest wound as you performed Joe Ryan's autopsy?
Yes.
Judge, at this point, I'd ask the court to admit this as Commonwealth's 15, and this can be published to the jury.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, 15 under seal and to the jury.
And was there any evidence present that would have helped you determine the distance between this injury and the firearm that inflicted it?
There was no visible soot or stippling on the skin around this wound.
And when you examined his clothing, the clothing that was present, did you find any defects in that clothing that he was wearing when you began your exam?
Yes, there was a hole in the left side, the front side of the shirt.
Okay. I am going to show you Commonwealth's 17, 18, and 19, their photographs. I'm going to ask for them to be displayed to the witness and counsel only at first. This is 17, 18, and 19. Do you recognize these photographs?
Yes.
And how do you recognize them?
They are photographs of the shirt, the first of which had the ruler.
And is this the shirt that you removed from Joe Ryan during his autopsy?
It is.
And are they all true and accurate depictions of the shirt as you saw it during the autopsy?
It is.
Judge, at this point, I'd ask the court to admit as Commonwealth 17, 18, and 19 the photographs of the shirt, and then allow them to be published to the jury.
And you want them under seal also?
Judge, I don't think that these need to be under seal. There's
That's
nothing.
fine. Okay, that's fine. Any objection?
No objection.
All right, 17, 18, 19.
So first showing 17, 18, and 19. And if we could terminate the view to the gallery at this point.
Yes, thank you.
I am going to show you Commonwealth's Exhibit 20, which is another photograph. And I'm going to ask for it to be displayed to the witness and counsel only. Can you see the photograph?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recognize this photo?
Yes.
And how do you recognize it?
It has the ruler with the case number and is a photograph of the middle section of Mr. Ryan's body before the clothing and medical intervention has been removed.
And is it a true and accurate depiction as you saw this view during the autopsy?
Yes.
And at this point, Judge, what I'd ask the court to do is admit Commonwealth's Exhibit 20, and I'd ask for this to be sealed.
All right, any objection?
No objection.
All right, 20 under seal, thank you.
And then you said before medical interventions were removed. Can you describe the medical interventions?
As seen in this photograph, there are 2 EKG electrodes on the lower portion of the abdomen. You can see one on the arm. There's also a chest seal, which is an adhesive seal over the gunshot wound on the left side of the chest.
And the chest wound, is the chest wound an entry wound or an exit wound?
An entrance wound.
And how do we know this?
It is round, has an abrasion, and a bullet is recovered from the body.
In relation to the where the entry wound is located, can you tell us where and how the bullet traveled after it entered Joe's chest?
The bullet injures the skin, soft tissue, and the muscle, the rib cage, the pericardium, which is the sac that the heart resides in, the heart, the aorta, which is a major blood vessel coming off of the heart, and the outside of the esophagus, which is the food tube to the stomach, and the T8 spine. The bullet traveled from left to right, front to back, and upward.
And given the path of travel of the bullet through these areas of Joe's chest and his upper body, can you tell us which of Joe's bodily functions would have been impacted and how?
The injury of the rib cage will impact breathing. The rib cage is needed for breathing. The injury of the pericardium in the heart puts a hole in the heart, so therefore it is now bleeding, leaking blood, and no longer pumping blood to the body effectively. There are holes in the aorta, which is a major blood vessel carrying blood, so now it is also bleeding. And there is injury of the T8 spines, the actual bone that the spinal cord is in. And the spinal cord itself is markedly softened, it's contused, contusion, and bleeding around it, so it is also injured.
And given that that there is no exit wound that we've seen, were you able to locate this bullet?
Yes.
And what did you do upon locating the bullet?
It was removed and photographed and sealed and transferred to police.
Do you recall where in the body it was removed from?
It was removed from the T8 spine.
And at this point, I'm going to show you what's been marked, what I will identify as Commonwealth's Exhibit 21. Are you familiar with that exhibit?
I am.
And how are you familiar with it?
It is the bullet with the labeled card, bullet chest with my signature inside the sealed bag, which I sealed and initialed.
And is it in the same or substantially similar condition as it was when you removed it from
Yes.
Joe's body during the autopsy? And Judge, at this point, what I'd ask the court to do is admit this as Commonwealth's Exhibit 21.
Any objection?
No objection.
21?
And Judge, if we could just simply allow the jury to see the exhibits, I can walk them.
Did you want to do it with a document camera, or?
I was just going to walk them around, or not.
I prefer the document camera if you could, it'd just be easier, but if you're concerned about it. You want to get to back to her. You just have to touch the top button. There you go.
The privacy screens are making it difficult.
Yes.
And these are the fragments that you recovered from the head, is that correct?
Yes.
And then, are you able also to see this on screen?
I am.
And is that the bullet that you recovered from the chest?
Yes.
Thank you. going to, these have been admitted, so.
They've been admitted evidence, we'll take them.
When you examined Joe's heart, was there anything about the structure and its injuries that was significant?
As I previously said, the bullet traveled through the heart. So now the heart is leaking, bleeding, and is no longer able to effectively pump blood.
And are you able to make any determination about his condition when that bullet injured his heart?
There was 1,200 milliliters of blood in the left side of the left chest cavity, which is 1.2 liters. So with the hole in the heart, some blood will leak passively out. However, to get 1.2 liters of blood into the left chest cavity, there has to be some sort of a pulse indicating there is some survival for at least an amount of time.
And regarding the blood that was on Joe's face, did either the head wound or the chest wound result in that amount of blood on his face?
There's a gunshot wound to the right side of his head, and as is, when I received his body, there was blood from his nose, ears, and mouth. And that injury of the gunshot wound to the head injured the skull and the facial bones, which injured the sinus cavities and the airways. So it can result in blood coming out of the ears, nose, and mouth and onto the face.
And do you have a reasonable opinion within a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to the cause and manner of death of Joe Ryan?
Yes.
And what are they?
The cause of death is multiple gunshot wounds, and the manner is homicide.
Now I'd like to turn to the autopsy of Christine Banfield. Were you able to determine, I'll give you a moment to get situated. Were you able to determine, was she clothed when you examined her?
She was partially clothed with socks.
Did she have anything else on her person other than clothing?
Yes, there were glasses on the top of her head and her hair. She had a necklace around her neck. She had earrings in her earlobes, and she had 2 rings on her left fourth finger.
And were you able to determine her height and weight?
Yes.
After documenting her weight, her socks, jewelry, and glasses, what did you do with the items?
The personal effects were photographed and packaged and transferred to law enforcement.
I'm going to show you a photograph that I'm going to identify as Commonwealth's Exhibit 50, and I'd ask for it to be shown to the witness and counsel only at this point. Do you recognize this photo?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
It has the ruler with the case number on it.
And what is depicted in the photo?
It is the glasses after they were removed from her body.
And is it a true and accurate depiction of the glasses that as they were collected from Christine as at the time of her autopsy?
Yes.
Judge, I'd ask the court to admit this as Commonwealth's Exhibit 50 and publish it to the jury.
Okay, any objection to 50?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, 50 in evidence. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, you said these glasses were found where on her person?
The top of her head.
And at this point, could I ask for the gallery view to be terminated?
Thank you. Would the jury also, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you take any physical samples from the body?
Yes.
And can you describe what samples you took and what you did with them?
Yes. I also completed a PERC kit, a physical evidence recovery kit, which included the standard samples, head hair, oral swabs, underwear, combed pubic hair, pulled pubic hair, vaginal swabs, anorectal swabs, a blood card, fingernail clippings. In addition to the standard samples for the PERT kit, I also completed swabs of the palms, swabs of the backs of the hands, swabs of both sides of the neck, and swabs of each breast. And I removed various fibers from her body.
And what did you do with those samples when you collected them?
All of those samples were packaged and transferred to law enforcement.
And is there a particular, was that also in a physical evidence recovery kit?
Yes.
Okay. And if we could, let's talk about the physical findings from your examination. I'm going to direct you to page 6 of your report in the section titled Evidence of Injury. And Judge, if we could display Commonwealth's Exhibit 11 to the jury.
They're seeing it.
Okay. There it is. Okay. You described some of the wounds as cutting wounds and some of the wounds as stab wounds. Can you describe the difference for us, please?
By definition, both wounds are sharp force injuries, so some injuries that are caused by something sharp, like a knife. Stab wounds, by definition, are deeper than they are long on the skin, and cutting wounds are longer on the surface of the skin than they go deep.
And I am going to show you a series of photographs at this point, and if I could have the view now be to counsel and the witness only for this portion. I'm going to show you a number of photos that I'm going to identify by number as I move through them. And just ask you to look at them at this point. I've got Commonwealth's 22, Commonwealth's 23, Commonwealth's 24, Commonwealth's 25, Commonwealth's 27, Commonwealth's 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39.
It should be 39 and
Sorry.
40.
Sorry, not 38, 39,
Not 38.
not 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, and 49. Do you recognize these photographs?
Yes.
And how do you recognize them?
They're all photographs of Ms. Banfield at the time of autopsy that have the ruler with the case number.
Judge, at this point, and are they a true and accurate depiction of what you saw as you performed the autopsy and took these photographs?
Yes.
Judge, at this point, I'd ask the court to admit the photographs, and then I'm going to talk about them and display
All
them.
right. Any
Judge,
objection?
may we approach?
Yes. All right, so I will enter into evidence then 22, 23, 24, 25, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, all entered evidence over the objection of the defendant and under seal.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Okay. If these can be published to the,
They are.
okay, gotcha. Looking at Commonwealth's Exhibits 22 and 23, can you describe where on Christine's body this stab wound appeared?
This is the left side of her neck, and it's a stab wound that's horizontally oriented on the left side of her neck with a cutting wound extending from the superior, which is the top aspect of the stab wound on the left side of her neck.
And going forward to 24 and 25, can you describe where on Christine's body this area of multiple stab wounds appeared?
Yes, this is the left side of her face and neck, or I'm sorry, the right side of her face and neck. There are multiple stab wounds and cutting wounds in this photograph. There is a vertical stab wound depicted as letter C on my autopsy report, which injures muscle and goes to the bottom of her skull and causes a fractured notched defect. There are 3 stab wounds on the left side of her neck that you can also see in this photograph. They're closely oriented and on the skin. They the wound paths commingle, meaning overlap, underneath the skin and the muscle in her neck. And they injure the left jugular vein, which is a major vein in the neck, the right carotid artery, and the larynx, which is the breathing tube, the epiglottis, the esophagus. There is a stab wound at the anterior aspect as well, kind of towards the front of her face with a cutting wound, as well as an abrasion present in this photograph.
And can you describe the various depths of the wounds that we see here?
The wounds range from a quarter of an inch deep to up to 2.5 inches deep.
And what means or observations, given your training and experience, informed your conclusions regarding the number of stab wounds on this side of Christine's neck?
In terms of the number, I counted. And for the ones that are very closely oriented beside each other, I used my training and experience to reapproximate them, the elastic fibers in the skin, kind of pull them apart more so that I could reorient them to be able to kind of put them back together to see them better.
And are any of the wounds that you described on this side of her neck or the other, are any of them immediately fatal?
No, they're all rapidly fatal injuries.
And did you note any additional injuries to Christine's body during your exam?
Yes, she had abrasions and contusions about her body.
And you recorded those.
I did.
Before we move on to those, I am going to retrieve Commonwealth's Exhibit 26. Commonwealth's Exhibit 26.
All right, any objection to 26, Mr. Kerr?
I'm sorry, Judge.
Any objection to 26, the knife? Okay. All right, entered evidence, 26.
If we could remove it from and then if, Dr. Kessler, that item, Commonwealth's Exhibit 26, as you're looking at it, is that item something that could have caused the wounds to Christine Banfield's neck?
Yes, it is a single-edged knife of a compatible size with the injuries on her neck.
And if we could display it on the document camera?
Sure. button on the top, if you could. There you go.
You're done. There you go.
There's a button that zooms in and out too if you need it. There you go.
Thank you. We can put it away for now. Okay. I would like to talk about some of the additional injuries that you noted in your report. The photographs that we're going to be looking at have already been admitted, but they are under seal. So we're looking at Commonwealth's Exhibit 27. Can you describe the injuries that are depicted in that photo?
In this photograph of the front of Christine's head and face, there is a abrasion on her forehead. There's an abrasion on her left eyelid. You can see abrasions on the left side of her chin.
And then moving on to 28 and 29, can you describe the injuries that we're seeing in these photos?
This photograph shows 3 abrasions on the left side of her chin.
And I am going to go back to 24, which we've seen before. Is there an additional injury that you noted that we can see in this photo?
Yeah. On the right side of her chin at the angle of the jaw, there are contusions, which are bruises.
And going forward to Commonwealth's 30, and you describe the injury that we see here.
That is an abrasion on the underside of her chin.
And in Commonwealth's 31, can you describe the injuries additional to the stab wounds that we see?
There's an abrasion at the kind of the back side of the neck. There's a bruise on the top of the right shoulder.
And moving forward to 32 and 33, can you describe the injuries we see in these photos?
In this photograph, there is a cutting wound on the top of the left shoulder with 2 adjacent abrasions or scrapes.
And in Commonwealth's 34, can you describe the injuries that you see in this photo?
In this photograph, you can see a bruise on the front side of her right arm, the upper chest on the right side, and the left side.
And in Commonwealth's 35, go ahead.
Is another photograph of the bruise on the front side of her right arm.
And Commonwealth's 36 and Commonwealth's 37, can you describe this injury for us?
This is a photograph of a bruise on the inside of her right arm.
And looking at Commonwealth's 39, can you describe that injury for us?
And that is a more close-up photograph of the bruise on the front side of her right arm.
And Commonwealth's 40.
This is a photograph of her body from the right lateral, the side, which includes the bruise on the front of her right arm.
And Commonwealth's 41, can you describe the injury for us in this photo?
This photo shows a portion of the right hand of the palm and the right forearm, and there are abrasions across the forearm.
And 42, Commonwealth's 42.
Is a bruise on the back side of the right hand.
And Commonwealth's 43, can you describe the injury in that photo?
This is the inside of the left arm, or the medial aspect, and it shows bruises.
And you say medial aspect, what's that part? What does that mean?
The inside, the side that's closer to your body.
And in Commonwealth's 44, what injury do we see here?
This is the front side of her right thigh, and there is a dark bruise and a fainter horizontal bruise across the front of the right thigh.
And in Commonwealth's 45, can you describe what injuries we're seeing here?
This is a picture of the left leg at the knee, and just below the knee there is a bruise on the left leg.
And in Commonwealth's 46 and Commonwealth's 47, can you describe the injuries that we see in those photos?
These are photographs of the front side of the right thigh. The first photograph is further away, the second is close up, again, of a bruise.
And in Commonwealth's 48 and 49, can you describe the injury in that photo?
This is a photograph of the back side of her left leg at her calf. The first is a far away picture, and the second is a closer up photograph, also of a bruise.
When I was reading your report, I noticed that the abrasions are all described as orange or red. Is there any significance to orange and red abrasions?
The color red typically describes bleeding, or what we call vital reaction. So the body is perfused, there's blood in the capillaries and the blood vessels around that area, the heart is pumping, there's a pulse. Vital reaction are typically associated with red abrasions and injuries. Orange abrasions are a little more unclear. They can be what we call perimortem, which is at or around the time of death, or they could be postmortem, after death, and they are lacking that red vital reaction.
And I also noticed that the contusions or bruises are all described as purple, blue, pink, gray. Is there any significance to these colors?
As we're all well aware, bruises can come in a variety of colors. Typically, after a bruise appears, it can have a different appearance on different people. And as a bruise breaks down and heals and ages, it can change colors. Typically, a bruise that is more than 24 or 48 hours, a bruise that is yellow or green is typically more than 24 or 48 hours. Just because a bruise isn't yellow or green doesn't mean that you can age it.
And so if you noted green or yellow contusions, would you be able to tell us how old those were?
That would be more definitive evidence of, yes, that is an older bruise.
So is it fair to say that the bruises that we see on Christine Banfield are not as old as a yellow or green bruise would be?
There are no yellow or green bruises, so therefore there is no definitive evidence of older bruises.
And I want to talk a bit again about the wound paths in the cutting wounds and the stab wounds on Christine's neck. Is there anything about their location on her body, their shape, their commingled nature that can tell us anything significant about her condition when they were inflicted?
Because they are closely oriented, the shapes are needed to be reapproximated, which could indicate movement by her or the assailant in the knife, which indicates she is alive.
And when you examined her respiratory system during the autopsy, what, if anything, did you find?
There's evidence of hemoaspiration, breathing of blood into the lungs, and swallowing of blood into the stomach, indicating she's alive.
And when you examined her gastrointestinal tract, what, if anything, did you find?
There's blood in her stomach from swallowing.
What is the significance of finding blood in the area where you found it?
It's from the injury of the upper airway and the esophagus, so the breathing tube and the food tube in the neck, and that blood is traveling down into the lungs and down into the stomach.
And I noted that the location was listed as the lumen. What does that mean?
That means inside the stomach.
And does the amount of bloody fluid have any significance?
There was 50 milliliters of blood in the stomach, so that's, some can travel passively, but that's how much was present in the stomach.
And do you have a reasonable opinion within a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to the cause and manner of the death of Christine Banfield?
Yes.
And what is that?
The cause of death is multiple sharp force injuries, and the manner of death is homicide.
I don't have any further questions for you. Mr. Carroll is going to have some questions for you.
All right, cross-examination.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Dr. Kessler.
Hello.
How are you? Sorry, I just need to get my
That's
act
fine.
together a little bit, Judge. Dr. Kessler, looking at Joe Ryan's autopsy that you performed, there were injuries on one of his hands. I think we talked about it when we were in person. Do you recall discussing that?
Yes.
And what's the nature of those injuries?
There's, on his left thumb, there's a bruise on the back side of it. There's a bruise on the palm side of the thumb with a cut or a puncture.
I'm sorry, what was the last part?
On the palm of the left thumb,
Okay,
there's a bruise with a cut, puncture injury.
okay. And would that be consistent with the knife that you've viewed?
It could be.
Okay. Now, was there any sort of discussion as to toxicology with regard to Mr. Ryan? Did you do any sort of testing regarding that?
Yes, toxicology was completed.
And what, if anything, came out from his system at that time?
The toxicology was positive for THC, carboxylic acid, 11-hydroxy-tetrahydrocannabinol, and was inconclusive for tetrahydrocannabinol in the blood.
In the blood?
Yes.
Okay. And so what would that breakdown of what you just testified to, what would that indicate to you?
Those are typically components of marijuana. However, I defer further questions regarding the toxicology to the toxicologist.
Okay. Would it be, well, then I don't want to put you on the spot and say anything about that. I won't ask that question. And tetrahydrocannabinol is either marijuana or a byproduct of marijuana, correct?
Perhaps.
Okay. And would it be within your bounds to be able to say that there was marijuana smoked prior to this time when they ended up in the Banfield house?
I can't say that.
Okay. But it was evident in the toxicology?
It's in the blood.
Okay. Now, in your dealings with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, how many people did you talk to? Do you recall?
I don't recall.
Was there one person that was the person in charge of discussing things with you in the medical examiner's office?
There's typically a representative from the Commonwealth Attorney's Office who is assigned the case.
Okay, and do you know who you spoke to about this case?
This case is from 2023, so the Commonwealth attorneys have changed throughout the course in regards to this trial here today. I discussed the case with Ms. Brisler and Ms. Sands.
Okay, did you talk to anybody else in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office?
Relevance, what's the relevance?
Um,
You want to approach of the
Yes.
relevance? Okay.
Dr. Kessler, is it true that the Commonwealth, not one of these ladies, asked you to speak to an outside private expert?
Yes.
Okay. And Do you know when that was?
I don't recall the date or even the year.
Okay. And did you, sorry, Judge, may I approach? I just want to make sure I don't go beyond what you. And Dr. Kessler, did you make a call to that expert?
I did not make a call. I corresponded via email.
Okay. Did that correspondence in any way cause you to change any of the findings that you would otherwise find?
No, I had already made all of my findings and developed my opinions, and they have not changed.
Okay. I don't have any further questions.
All right, redirect.
Actually, I'm sorry, I have other questions not on that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Dr. Kessler, in terms of the injuries to Christine Banfield, the injuries to the neck, do you have an opinion as to, I know you said rapidly, they were rapid, I forget the term you used.
I described them as rapidly fatal.
Rapidly fatal, yes, thank you. I wanted to make sure we got that. And these were the wounds that were on the neck.
Yes,
And I think you had said rapidly fatal was from seconds to minutes?
yes.
Okay. And during that time of seconds to minutes, was there anything that would have hindered her ability to speak or say something?
There is injury of the larynx, the epiglottis, and the airway, perhaps.
Okay. So the possibility of speaking existed at that time?
I can't definitively say there, but I can confirm that there is injury of that area, not of her vocal cords, but injury of her airway and her larynx in the general area where sounds are made. But I can't tell you yes or no definitively if she could make noise or speak.
In communications, I guess in your contact with the police department, was there ever a request to determine if there was another knife?
I don't recall.
Were you ever asked for anything like that?
I don't believe so.
Okay. And is it fair to say then that the knife that you just presented to the jury was the only knife that you had any sort of contact with?
It's the only one that I recall seeing, yes.
Okay. Bear with me. On page 2 of your report for Christine Banfield, it says postmortem toxicology was positive for phentermine. Would that be something that would have been provided through emergency means, or do you have any way of knowing?
I have no way of knowing.
Do you know what phentermine is?
It's typically a weight loss drug. I don't know why she had it.
Okay. It wasn't something that was administered as part of, I would assume that it wouldn't be administered as part of any sort of life-saving measures or anything like that.
Not that I was indicated to me.
Okay. Judge, I don't have any questions.
All right.
Any further questions?
All right,
Thank
now
you,
read
Dr.
yours. Thank you. Okay.
Judge, we don't have any redirect.
All right, is this witness subject to recall, or is she free to go?
Judge, not for me.
Mr. Carroll, is this?
No, thank you, Judge.
Is she subject to recall?
No.
All right, you're free to go, doctor. Thank you. Have a good day. All right, I think this is a, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is a good time to take our afternoon break for 15 minutes. So we'll go ahead and take our afternoon break for 15 minutes. Again, don't talk to anybody about the case, and don't do any outside research, okay? We'll see you in 15 minutes, okay?
Thank you for staying with us here on WUSA 9+. You are watching right now the Brendan Banfield trial, and that was a lot. For the last, hour and a half, we were hearing from the Assistant Chief Medical Examiner, and she was talking in detail about the autopsy report for both Christine Banfield, but also Joseph Ryan. What were the big takeaways for you from all of this, Frank?
I think pretty gruesome testimony with regard to the stab wounds. That was pretty gruesome, I think, for the jury to hear. I think what the defense was trying to do was just to be real short and really say that it didn't matter. The medical examiner did say that the manner of death was homicide, which I know has been subject to some controversy whether she would be permitted to say that.
Right.
She was permitted to say that. I would expect the judge later to tell the jury that even though the words homicide were uttered, doesn't mean that this isn't a self-defense case or something other than an actual homicide. That kind of stood out to me. The gruesome nature of the stab wounds stood out to me. The prosecutor may argue this looked like a more personal attack than kind of a BDSM scenario attack. I would think that's kind of where the prosecutor's headed after that testimony.
Okay. What do you think, though, was the relevance in talking at such length, specifically when she was going over Christine Banfield's autopsy? They asked her at length, like, what was on her body. They talked about how she had glasses in her hair still, she had jewelry on, she had socks on. What was the importance of sharing that information and questioning that information?
Yeah, I don't know exactly where they're going with that. Perhaps that this was not, she was not anticipating some type of sexual encounter.
Right.
Given the clothing and whatnot. There is a certain ferocity to the wounds that were inflicted on her. There is a fair amount of bruising involved, so obviously there was some struggle between her assailant and herself before she ultimately succumbed to the wounds. I think any of the stab wounds would have been fatal within seconds to minutes.
Yeah, I think the word she used was rapidly fatal were the injuries.
They were definitely rapidly fatal, and in fact, any one of those wounds, I think she testified, would have been fatal, even if inflicted in a singular manner.
Yeah, and I noticed that, the defense attorney, John Carroll, he came back and he had a follow-up question. He wanted to know if the injuries would have caused her to not be able to speak. Why do you think that was such an important thing for him to come back? He had already finished questioning her, but then to come back and ask that question.
Yeah, that will probably tie in with something later. I don't know if it's something that he's going to say that she didn't call out for help, or there's something about her being able or unable to be audibly heard. Perhaps it was during the 911 call that perhaps at that point she could have yelled out something. I don't know exactly where that's going. That's something, again, that I think was put out there now by the defense that is part of the story that they want to present.
We heard from her for a long time. They had a lot of questioning for her. Do you think when we come back from this break that they're going to have more questions for her? I know they've said they're done. They're not going to recall her. Why is it that they're done already?
Yeah, I think they're finished. I was surprised that the cross-examination was not a little bit more lengthy, not that it wasn't very effective. Obviously, Mr. Carroll is getting right to the point and really making his points in a certain manner. The prosecutor was trying to soft walk that witness, and by that I mean the prosecutor was really taking their time with that witness. You saw many bruises, and there was a picture of each bruise. they really took their time with that witness because that was a very gruesome testimony in terms of the wounds on her body. And the prosecutor really wanted the jury to kind of soak in the gravity of what happened here.
Let's talk about Brendan. We talked about him before, and his behavior through all of this. Again, we saw him sitting there and taking what appeared to be notes. What does that show to the jury? Each time you see him taking notes, and then you see his attorney get up with a stack of papers that look to be some of the notes he had been taking. What do you think is happening there?
Yeah, he appears to me to be a fidgety client. That can be perceived by the jury one way or another. Sometimes a jury can see that person as incredibly attentive and participating in their defense. Other jurors may see it as more controlling or nervous about the testimony that's coming out. That will be to be determined as the jury goes through these next 2 or 3 weeks. They are definitely watching him. They're always watching the accused. So it'll be interesting to see afterwards even how they kind of viewed his actions towards his attorney.
If he's your client, what are you telling him in these moments? What are the conversations you're having with him as you guys are sitting there at the table and, he's on trial for murder?
It really depends upon my past interactions with him. So if he's built up a good trust and a relationship where I feel that he's going to be able to give me good information or even suggest good questions to ask, that's one thing. If he's sitting there and not giving me good feedback or pushing questions that I might think are more harmful than helpful, then I might even distance myself a little bit and put somebody in between the two of us so I can concentrate on what's going on with the actual testimony.
All right, thank you so much, Frank Salvedo. Here with us, we are going to take you back into the courtroom in just a few moments, but we will be back. Thank you again for watching WUSA 9+.
Juliana, Juliana Peres, Peres Magalhães, Magalhães.
And how old are you now, Juliana?
25.
And do you know the defendant?
Yes.
What's his name?
Brendan Banfield.
When did you meet him?
Back in October 2021. 22.
When did you meet him?
Hmm?
When did you meet him?
Well, can you specify? Sorry.
When did you first meet him?
In person when I first came to the States, and before that, through a video call with the family.
Okay. Do you recall what month or year that was?
When I came to the States,
Yes.
it was October
Do you know what year?
2021.
Okay. And when you first met Mr. Banfield, what was your relationship to him?
It's professional. He was my boss.
And you said he was your boss.
Yeah.
What was your job?
I was their au pair.
And so you said you worked as an au pair. What does that mean?
Au pair is like a nanny position, but somebody comes from another country providing care for their kids, and in exchange they live with their family, and yeah.
Okay.
Basically.
Do you get paid to be an au pair?
Yes,
How much?
$200 a week.
And how long of a stay did you have as an au pair?
We can have from a year to 2 years, but as an au pair, I stayed for a year.
Okay. And did you, so you arrived, you said you arrived in October of 2021, and you said you stayed for a year?
Yeah,
And then did you extend that stay?
yes.
And how long did you extend the stay for?
I think I might have extended for another year.
Let's talk about when you lived with the Banfield family and worked for them as their au pair. Where did you live?
I lived in their house, in their home.
Okay. And who lived there with you?
It was Brendan, his wife, Christine, and their daughter.
And we know who Brendan is.
Yeah.
Who's Christine?
Christine was Brendan's wife.
And you said their daughter?
Yeah,
What was their daughter's name?
Valerie.
What was your life like with them?
With the family,
Yeah, when you first got there, what was it like?
it was kind of a period for me to adapt to the family, to my job, to the country. But I was very welcome, I guess.
And what was Brendan like when you first came to live with the family and be their au pair?
We barely spoke, like, my relationship was mostly with Christine and Valerie. Brendan and I barely spoke at all.
Okay. What was Christine like?
Christine was very friendly, very welcoming, very fair. Yeah.
Did you spend time with her and spend time with Valerie together?
Yes.
And did you spend time on your own with Christine?
Maybe a couple times going to a store or, yeah.
Do you recall if Christine had a blood disorder?
I heard about it, yes.
And do you know the name of it?
I do not know.
Do you know if she took any medication for it?
As far as I know, no.
What was Valerie like?
Valerie is very loving, very caring. She's just,
How old was Valerie when you met her in 2021?
she was 3.5, I guess.
I'm sorry, say that again?
3.5.
And were there any other children that were living in the Banfield's home while you lived there too?
No,
Do you know if they had an au pair before you were their au pair?
yeah.
Who was that?
It was Amanda.
And when you began working for the Banfields, you need a minute? When you began working for the Banfields, do Do you remember what their jobs were?
Yeah,
Or do you know what their jobs were?
yeah. Christina was RN, and Brenda was working, I guess, as an investigator for the IRS.
At some point, while you were working for the Banfield family, did your relationship with the defendant change?
Yes,
How did it change?
it became sexual, physical relationship.
And do you recall when the relationship changed?
It was August 2022.
And did you keep the relationship, this new relationship with the defendant, did you keep this a secret?
For my part, some of my friends, they knew because I told them, and I used to post on my Instagram. But for his part, yeah, it was a secret.
Okay. You said you told some friends about it.
Yeah,
Do you remember which friends you told?
I told Beatrice about it and Pamela.
And did you take any photos of you and the defendant after you began a romantic or physical relationship?
Yes,
And you said you had posted some things to social media?
yes.
Okay. I am going to show you a couple of photos. And if I could have this view be to the witness and counsel only, please.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to show you Commonwealths 51, 52, 53, and 54. This is 51, 52, 53, and 54. Do you recognize these photos?
Yes, I do.
And how do you recognize them?
It's me and Brendan.
And are these social media posts that you made?
Yes,
Judge, at this time, what I would ask the court to do is admit these as Commonwealths 51, 52, 53, and 54.
All right, any objection? Okay, 51, 52, 53, and 54 in evidence.
And we can publish the
Yep.
first one to the jury. Can you tell us who's under the emoji here?
it's Brendan.
And then a couple of these have noise. And then this one, Commonwealth's 53, can you describe who this is?
It's Brendan's hand,
And whose leg is that?
my legs.
And the date on the photo that is posted, is that the date that the photo was taken?
Yes,
And this photo here, Commonwealth's 54, who's under the emoji?
it's Brendan.
Do you know when this photo was taken
It's from the same day as the previous picture.
as the previous one?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I want to go back to 52.
Really do this.
And in that post, who is present in that post?
His person behind the emoji.
And who is behind the emoji?
Oh, Brendan.
And is it you and Brendan singing in that post?
Yes,
So you began a sexual relationship with the defendant in August of 2022 when you were how old?
I was 21.
And when this relationship began, did you ever think about how it might end?
No, I didn't really think it was serious, a relationship.
And did the defendant ever talk with you about any long-term plans for the two of you?
Not initially.
Not initially. Did he ever, though?
Yes.
When did that talk start?
I think it started after he talked about his plan.
Okay. And did he ever talk about the two of you getting married or the two of you having children?
Yes.
And do you recall when that talk began?
Also, after he mentioned his plan.
Did he ever talk about his relationship with his wife, Christine Banfield?
Sometimes it would come up in our conversation and he would talk about it.
And what did he say?
He used to say that she didn't seem to care about where he was, what he was doing. She didn't seem to care about him at all. And that she was helpless and just lazy.
Do you recall when he said those things?
When?
Yes.
Well, many times during our conversation when she came up.
And did he ever talk to you about anything else about his relationship? Did he ever talk about getting a divorce with her?
No, he basically said divorce was not an option.
Did he say why?
Money was involved.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Money.
Okay. Anything
Wasn't-
else?
Money was involved and Valerie's custody too.
And what about those things? Did he say anything specifically about money or Valerie's custody?
Yeah, he said that he didn't want to have to share Valerie with Christine, that she wasn't good for Valerie. So he wanted to have Valerie full time. And money, because she should have more money than he would if they ever split.
And so he didn't want to get divorced. Did he tell you what he wanted to do?
Yes.
What did he say?
He mentioned his plan to get rid of her.
And you said he mentioned his plan to get rid of her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When did he talk about that first?
I would say it was in October 2022.
And what specifically was his plan to get rid of her?
Initially, he didn't really know what he would do. He just mentioned that he was thinking about it, and he would think better and let me know when he thought about it. Yeah.
Where were the two of you when this first conversation took place?
New York.
And were you on a trip to New York with only him?
It was him and Valerie.
What did you think when he told you that?
At first, I thought he was joking. Yeah, for me, it was a joke.
And you said that you were in New York when that conversation happened.
Yeah.
Did the three of you return to Virginia after that trip?
Yes, we did.
And did he talk about this plan again after you returned?
Yeah.
And did he give you more information or more detail about what he intended to have happen?
Yeah, he said he wasn't going to hire anybody because that is something that throughout investigation can be discovered easily. And that he had heard of a website called FetLife. He's never done anything on the website, but he heard about it, and that's what he was going to do.
And did he tell you anything more about the plan at this point?
At that point, not really. People are still thinking about it.
And at the end of October of 2022, did you visit a shooting range?
Yes.
And did anyone come with you?
Brendan?
The first time that you went to the shooting range, do you recall signing any paperwork?
Yes.
Judge, at this point, I'm going to display a photograph. I would ask for the display to be to the witness and counsel only.
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to look at the screen in front of you. Do you have, is there a document on your screen?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm gonna scroll through this document for you slowly.
Just for the record, could you, the exhibit number of the
Oh,
document?
it is exhibit number 56.
Thank you.
Do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes.
And how do you recognize it?
It's the waiver you have to sign when you first go to the shooting range.
And did you sign this?
Yeah.
Is that your signature there on page 6?
Yes.
Judge, at this point, I'm going to ask to admit this as Commonwealth's 56 and allow for it to be published to the jury.
Any objection? All right, 56 in evidence and published.
And I'm going to just bring it back up to the top so that the jury can see it. Do you recall the date on the form?
Yeah, October 29, 2022.
And on that date, do you recall shooting a firearm?
Yes.
Do you remember if it was a handgun or a long gun?
It was a handgun.
And was the defendant with you while you were firing the handgun on that day?
Yes.
Did you ever go back to the firing range again?
Eventually, we did.
Do you remember when you went back to the firing range?
I'd say back in December.
And did you practice firing a firearm on that December visit?
Yes.
And again, what kind of firearm? Do you recall if it was a handgun or a long gun?
It's a handgun.
And was anyone with you when you returned to the firing range in December?
It's Brendan.
Judge, at this point, I'm going to ask for the view of Commonwealth 56 to be terminated to the gallery. And I am going to move to Commonwealth's 57 for the view of the witness and counsel only at this point. Do you see a photograph on your screen?
I do.
Okay. And do you recognize this photograph?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
It's me at the shooting range.
And do you know who took this picture?
Brendan.
Judge, at this point, I am going to ask to have this admitted as Commonwealth's 57.
All right, any objection to 57? All right, 57 evidence and published.
Did the defendant tell you why he wanted to return to the firing range for that second visit?
Yes.
And why was that?
That's in case I need to use it if something goes wrong.
And what would go wrong? What was he concerned about going wrong? Had he told you more of his plan at this point?
At that point specifically, I can't really recall.
But he told you that he wanted you at the firing range because you needed, in case something went wrong.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
After the December visit to the shooting range, what, if any, additional steps did the defendant take to move his plan forward?
It was in January when he created the account on the website.
Okay. So were you present when he created the FetLife account?
Yes.
And did he use his own email address to create the account?
No, he did not.
What email address did he use?
He created a new email account for Christine, and Christine's name.
And were you there when he created that email address?
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you recall what device he used to create the email address?
To her laptop,
And when you say her laptop, whose laptop are you talking about?
Christine's laptop.
And do you recall what device he used to create the FetLife account?
Also laptop,
And when you say the laptop, are you talking about Christine's laptop?
yes.
And do you recall the name of the profile that the defendant created for the FetLife account?
Anastasia Knight,
And was there a photograph added to that profile?
yes.
Who is the photograph of?
It's Christine's body in a bathing suit.
And who added the photograph to the profile?
Brendan did.
And who typed the words for the profile?
I hear that.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Brendan did.
Okay. If I could have the view terminated to the gallery at this point. And I am going to ask for exhibits 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, and 65, all photographs, to be displayed to the witness and counsel only at this point. I'm going to show you a series of screenshots, and then I'm going to ask you about them. So this is 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, and 65. Do you recognize these photos, these screenshots?
Yes.
How do you recognize them?
As the FetLife account.
And Judge, at this point, I'm going to ask to admit Commonwealths 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, and 65 to be admitted under seal and published to the jury only.
All right. No objection. All right, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, admitted under seal.
Okay, and I'm going to run back through them.
58.
Okay. So Commonwealth's 58, is this the FetLife profile that was posted?
Yes.
And the about section here that we can see, who wrote the words in that? Who composed that?
Brendan.
And then in 59, Commonwealth's 59, is this also a part of the FetLife profile?
Yes.
And then Commonwealth 60, is this the photograph that was used as the profile photo for the FetLife
Yes.
profile? And then Commonwealth's 61 here, is this the group, for lack of a better word, that this profile was posted in?
Oh, sorry. Can you repeat it again, please?
Sure. This photograph here, Commonwealth 61, is this the group within FetLife that you use to communicate with other users?
Yes.
And then Commonwealth 62, is this the post that you and Brendan used on FetLife?
Is there an object? What's your objection, Mr. Leading? Okay,
Okay, understood.
all right. I'll
Take-
sustain the objection.
Take a look at Commonwealth 62. Can you describe for us what it is?
It's a post made on the profile.
And what website was this posted on?
FetLife.
And what was the reason for posting it?
There was the account was first created, I guess, and to tell people what she was looking for.
And whose idea was it to post this? Whose idea was it to post this?
Brendan.
Okay. We can terminate this view at this point. How did you and Brendan, how did you use the laptop? How did the two of you use her laptop without her knowing about it?
It was because every time she used to get home from work, she throw her backpack by the door, and in the backpack was her laptop and her work stuff.
And once the FetLife account was created, what, if anything, did the two of you do with it?
Texting other people, other guys. They would also text looking for whatever it is that they're interested in.
Okay. And had Brendan explained to you at this point in time, or was there any explanation given to you about what it was that he was using FetLife for, or what it was he was looking for from another FetLife user?
Yeah.
What was that?
The website is for BDSM, people that like that kind of stuff, and he said we would be able to find somebody that plays like aggressive or that likes playing with blood and that kind of stuff.
And why? What was the what if any reason did he want to find someone like that for?
Well, because the person would be eventually the person would be invited to come to the house, and he needed to know that the person was willing, or he was going to do what he had in his mind.
And what was he using FetLife to ask other users to do to the Anastasia profile?
Things like pinning her down, gagging her, spanking. Yeah.
And when the two of you used FetLife to message other people, were you, who would do the typing? Were you typing? Was Brendan typing?
To talk to other people?
Yes.
You asked. Sometimes it would be him, sometimes it would be me by his instruction when he was with me.
And were the two of you typically together while you were using FetLife to message other people?
Yes.
And was Christine home or not home when the two of you used FetLife?
She was home.
Always?
Yes.
Why?
Because he always mentioned for us to make sure to log in on the account when she was also home. So it would have, throughout the investigation, it would have been very clear that, like, whenever she was using the profile, she was home, and yeah.
And you said because during the investigation. Why would there be an investigation?
Well, he always thought, like, in advance, he knew how the investigation would go. Like, he always knew, and yeah.
But why did he know?
What did he know?
Yeah, why? You said because he always knew about the investigation. What did he know about an investigation? There
He-
hadn't been one yet.
He knew eventually we would have one investigation
Why?
because there would be a murder, and it's just what happens. Investigation.
Did he tell you that?
Yeah.
What specifically did he tell you about that?
Well, he knew that we needed to have some alibis. He knew that he needed to change his routine a few weeks prior so it wouldn't be odd that he wasn't, just at McDonald's on that day specifically.
Okay. I am going to show you a couple of items one at a time. The parties have stipulated to the admissibility of the next two items, well, the next several items. The first two are going to be Commonwealth 66 and 67. And Judge, Commonwealth 66, I'm going to ask to have published to the jury and counsel only, and I'm going to ask that these be under seal.
66 and 67?
Yes.
There's an agreement to admissibility, is that correct, Mr. Kara? Okay, so 66 and 67 are in evidence under seal.
Say that again. Let me see. Yep. I'm going to move on. Having a couple of technical difficulties, so I'm going to move on for a minute, and then we'll go back to 66 and 67. Did you and the defendant ever travel out of town together?
Yes.
Where did you go?
To Winchester, Virginia.
Do you recall when that was?
When?
When?
Not exact date, no.
Do you know if it was before or after that the defendant created the FetLife profile?
Can I say if I'm not 100% sure though?
You don't recall?
No.
Okay. How did you arrange to go to Winchester together?
He was going for an overnight stay in a hotel for his job,
Okay,
and
go ahead.
and he took his car, his work car, and I took the white car his to drive.
And when the two of you were in Winchester, was there ever any posting on FetLife at that time?
No,
And why would that have been?
because, like I said before, that he always made sure to.
What's your objection, Mr. Carroll? Your microphone, I can't, it's very hard to hear you. What's your legal objection?
Legal objection. She's asked and answered that she didn't do any posting. And so,
Asked and
any
answered.
further question?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
He said asked and answered.
I don't think I asked her if any of them posted on FetLife while they were
Okay,
out of town in Winchester.
Okay, I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead.
Sorry. Did either of you post on FetLife or message anyone on FetLife while the two of you were in Winchester?
No,
And why is that?
because we would only post when we were home and she was home at the same time.
Okay. And were there any other things that the two of you did to make it look like Christine was the one messaging in FetLife? Do you want me to ask that a different way?
Yes, please.
Did the two of you ever message people or post on FetLife when Christine was home and only one of you was home?
Yes.
And whose idea was that?
Brendan?
And did he say why?
Yes.
And why was that?
Because, again, when he talked about the investigation we would have at some point, he pointed out that the police would have access to where our phones are, where our phones pin, and so we wouldn't be able to accuse him of doing that, because sometimes she would be doing it, posting and messaging, and she would be home and he wouldn't be home, and other times I wouldn't be home, and so there would be no way to actually prove it, and that's the alibis he talked about.
Can you recall any specific instances of how it would have worked for one of you to be home posting while Christine was home and the other one was out of the home?
That normally happened when both of us went to the gym, and he would tell me to leave earlier and go home so I'd get home before him, and for me to log in the account and, text people, talk to people. And other times he would tell me to hang in the gym behind, and he would leave earlier, so he would be the one logging in and talking to people.
Okay. And the gym that you're talking about, do you recall which gym that was?
Yeah, Lifetime.
And did the two of you, and do you know which location?
Yeah, Ruston.
Did the two of you go to Lifetime Fitness together frequently?
Yes.
Did Christine go with the two of you?
It was just maybe a couple times, but nothing. It was normally Rana and I.
Okay. I'm going to go back to Commonwealth 66 and 67 at this point. If we could see 66.
You can publish from the table, please.
Just give us a second. Jury, it's already in evidence. In the gallery. Oh, it's sealed. No, never mind. Okay.
All right, so looking at Commonwealth 66, can you see it on your screen?
Yes.
Okay. And then at the top of your screen, there's a column that's titled User ID. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. The user ID identified as Anastasia 9.
Okay.
Who wrote the messages from Anastasia 9? Not that specific message, but just in general. Who is the person or persons who are writing the messages from Anastasia 9?
It's either me or Brendan.
And the other user IDs that we see that are largely numbers in this view, are those messages that are received by you and the defendant using the Anastasia 9 profile?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to ask for us to scroll forward a little bit to location number 367 or cell 367. The user ID Taco Supreme 7000. Did you come to know who that was?
That's Joe.
And now if we could switch to Commonwealth 67. The Taco Supreme 7000 profile that you came to know as Joe Ryan. We see that profile, and we see Anastasia 9 communicating in this view of the spreadsheet. Do you recognize these as FetLife chats that you and Brendan wrote from Anastasia 9 and received from Taco Supreme?
Yes.
And when the two of you were using FetLife, I've asked you before what it was that Brendan was looking for. What is it about Joe's answers and messages that attracted Brendan to selecting Joe? Did he ever tell you?
He told me at some point too, but he was always making comments like that Joe was the white person.
Did he say why?
Because he seemed to be like the person who would do the things that Brendan needed the person to do.
Okay. And I'm now going to ask you to look at Commonwealth's 68, 69, 70, 71, and 72, one at a time.
Can you go back to that one first?
Go back to this.
Yeah. You're still connected.
If they're the same.
Okay.
And Judge, let's look at 68 first.
We're just getting back to the podium, hold on.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor. I do think these are all Excel spreadsheets. and
Okay,
we're
do you
having-
want
Stay with me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we're having trouble with Excel from this computer.
Okay,
So first, if we could look at 68 from the witness and counsel views only. And again, Your Honor, the parties have stipulated to the FetLife chats. So I believe that all of these exhibits can be admitted, but I'd ask that they be admitted under seal.
68, 69, 70?
68, 69, 70, 71, and 72.
Okay, is that correct, Mr. Carroll? Do you need to see them all? She said you've already agreed to, not the miscibility, but just to the foundation.
These are the same exhibits that were provided to council last weekend. They're,
If you could go through them, do you want me to go through these and make sure? Okay. You need to see them, is that what you? Okay, I'm sorry, just, if you don't have your microphone on, I have a lot of trouble hearing you up here. Okay, all right, so you need to see.
My
Okay,
client
well,
and I need to
You
see.
could go through all those exhibits, Ms. Bristler.
Okay, so looking at 68 is a short one.
Is that the one
That
that's
is-
on screen right now?
Yes.
Okay, no objection.
All right, so 68 in evidence, under seal. Is this 69 we're
This
looking
is
at now?
69.
No objection.
All right, no objection, 69 under seal.
No objection.
That's 67? Is that correct? I'm sorry, 70?
That's 70.
70, okay, 70 under seal.
71, if we could look at 71.
No objection.
All right, 71 under seal, and then 72.
No objection.
All right, so 72 also under seal. Okay, thank you.
Okay. If we could go back to 68. Can you see on your screen Commonwealth 68?
Yes.
Okay. And you see again, in the menu, in the title bar there, you see ID, conversation ID, user ID, body. So the conversation ID that we're looking at, I just want to check and make sure we're both looking at the same thing. 446774523.
Yes.
Okay. So we see these messages between this user ID and then the Anastasia profile. This user ID says, wish I could get you to come meet me at my hotel in Richmond next Wednesday night. And then the Anastasia profile says, thank you, Richmond is too far for me. I'm looking to chat a bit before meeting someone. So why would it be that you guys wouldn't have pursued this user?
Because all along, his plan was for the person to come in the house. Yeah.
And when we're looking again at the Anastasia profile, is it you and or Brendan who is operating the Anastasia profile?
Yes.
Okay. Then if we could move on to Commonwealth 69. So just making sure that we're looking at the same thing on the screen. I'm looking at conversation 447868690.
Yes.
All right, okay. So this person is looking for someone to meet up with at restaurants and coffee shops and just talking and getting to know one another. They'd like to go to an event eventually, and they say they're pretty new to Fet World, but willing to learn. And then the Anastasia profile says, I'm not looking to go out on dates, sorry. Why is it that the two of you wouldn't have pursued, why would Brendan have not pursued this person to further converse with?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
It's okay. So this person is asking to meet out in public.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that Brendan was interested in having the Anastasia profile do?
No,
Why not?
because again, he needs somebody that would agree to come to the house. Yeah, so could do the things that he needed the person to do.
And meeting out in public is not something that.
No.
Let's look at the Exhibit Commonwealth 70. Ready, I want to stay at the top first. Okay. So again, just making sure we're looking at the same document. I'm looking at conversation ID 452-721-523.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So this user ID messages the Anastasia profile and says, saw your ad, I'm interested, a little bit about what I like and have done in the past. First off, restraints, and I've used rope and some leather cuffs and some vinyl tape. The profile goes on to describe pretty specifically what experience and what equipment that this person has and can bring to this relationship. Is this someone that, is this someone that the two of you might have been interested in?
Can I just read it over?
Say that again?
Can I just read it over?
Yes, of course, take your time.
Yes.
And if you could scroll down a little bit. So this conversation looks like it went on for a little bit longer than the past two conversations. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. And then if you look at cell number 931, the profile says, the other user says, I would expect that you might want to meet somewhere in public before doing anything in private. Your call on how or when to do that. Most weekdays I could get away at some point during the day to get a bite to eat or coffee or a drink after work. And then it goes on from there. Did you guys answer that? Take a look at the spreadsheet and let me know if you see an answer to this request to get together.
No,
And why wouldn't you have responded?
because that's not something he was interested in, going for a coffee or meeting in public.
Okay. And then if we could go on to Commonwealth 72. And then if we can move down to cell number 571. I have to blow up to see it, I can't. Sorry. There we go. Okay, so in this conversation, and let's make sure we're looking at the same conversation again. I'm looking at conversation 448-599-624.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So in this conversation, there's some initial talk, and then in cell number 571, the Anastasia profile says, I don't have restraints. It's something you would need to bring and be comfortable doing. Sounds really intense. And then there's more, but I'm not going to read that aloud. Why did the other user need to bring restraints?
Well, because we didn't have it. and whoever the person was going to be was supposed to bring all the stuff, like the restraints or cuffs, whatever the person's supposed to have to bring.
And whose idea was that?
Brendan's.
And what else was the person eventually supposed to bring?
Eventually, you want the person to bring a knife.
Okay. And when we look at cell number 572, this user responds to the Anastasia profile, and this user says, so I'm a vet. We'd need to work up to restraints. I don't recommend them until the second or third time, once trust is there. And then in 573, this user says, if you're for real, let's grab a drink or coffee in public to see if there's attraction, no expectations. I work out in Fairfax County on Tuesdays if you're around. And then Anastasia responds in 574. And is it you and Brendan still operating the Anastasia profile at this point in time?
Yes.
So you tell her, I'm not interested in going on a regular date. That takes away from the excitement and the thrill of the first meeting. Why is that? So this is the third time that we've seen FetLife users saying, let's meet someplace, let's meet in public. And this person says, essentially, I've been doing this a while, and usually we don't get to that part until the second or third time we meet. So why is it important why is it significant why is it, again, that the Anastasia profile keeps refusing to meet in public?
Because of the plan I had in mind, that would need to happen in the house. The person would need to come over, bring their stuff, and because it was not real, it was not Christine talking, so there was no way going out on a date to first meet the person.
All right, let's move on to Commonwealth 71.
71, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And then just again, make sure we're looking at the same conversation. I'm looking at conversation ID 446943660.
Yes.
This conversation, and I'm going to ask if we could just scroll through the conversation so we can see kind of the length of it. So it looks like this conversation is longer to me. Does it look longer to you?
Yes.
And if we could look at cell 145. So in this conversation, can you take a look at cells 145, 146, 147, and 148, 149?
Right.
And so this user is still expressing, this is a different user, and this user is expressing discomfort at coming to someone else's house. This user says, I mean, I'm more than fine to play that role, just not at someone else's house, where your husband could come home at any time. And then the Anastasia profile, which again, is that you and Brendan as the Anastasia profile?
Yes.
And so you tell this user that he works a set schedule and that she works a rotating schedule, and childcare responsibilities make it harder to plan around, and that they're only comfortable at my house and feel best about being there and recovering and relaxing at home afterwards. Again, the Anastasia profile, you and Brendan are saying, we don't want to come outside of our house. And is this for the same reason?
Yes.
And then this user in cell number 143 tells her, the concept is very hot, yeah, but the way you explain it does not look great on my side if anything were to go wrong. Basically, going into your home uninvited, tying you up, and taking advantage of you. Is that what the intent was? To have someone come in
Yes.
and to behave in the manner?
I'm sorry, I'm just going to object to the leading nature
Our
of these
leading, I'll
questions.
just-
It's been,
I'll sustain this meeting.
I'll move on. Did you and Brendan ever agree to meet a FetLife user in public?
No.
Did you ever agree to meet another FetLife user at a hotel
No.
or at another user's home or work?
No.
And so ultimately, out of all the users in the Commonwealth 67 and the few conversations that we've explored, Joe Ryan was selected.
Yes.
Who chose Joe?
Brendan.
And did he say why he picked Joe after interacting with him on FetLife?
It was mostly because he made Brendan feel confident enough that he would be the person to play the role they needed the person to play, which means being aggressive and hold her down and come over to the house and bring stuff and all that, yeah.
And did you and the defendant ever use any other form of communication with Joe Ryan?
Yes,
And what form of communication was that?
it was a telegram.
And were you present when the Telegram account was created?
Yes,
Who created the Telegram account?
Brendan.
And how did he do that?
He used her laptop on its anonymous page, and he had her cell phone with him at the time because he needed to receive a code on her cell phone so she could create the account on Telegram.
And how did you and the defendant communicate with Joe Ryan on Telegram?
By texting.
Did you use any other form of communication on Telegram with him?
Phone call, phone call.
And who was it that spoke on the phone with Joe Ryan when you had that phone call?
I spoke to Joe.
Your Honor, if we can switch from the table to the podium.
Which one? The podium?
To the podium. please.
Okay, podium. Take the jury on.
When you spoke on the phone, did Joe comment on your accent?
Yes.
What did he
Those-
say?
That was the first thing he said. As soon as I said hi, he was surprised that I had an accent. And he asked, "Oh, you have an accent?" I didn't know. And I told him, yes.
Now I'm going to show you Commonwealth 73, and I would ask for this to be displayed to counsel and witness only. And if I could have the court's indulgence for just one moment.
Sure.
Okay. Do you have something on your screen in front of you?
Yes.
Okay. And Judge, Commonwealth 73 has been stipulated, admissibility has been stipulated by the parties.
All right, yes, sir. Okay, that's true. Okay, so 73 in evidence, thank you.
Yep, and so we could publish that to the jury.
Okay.
I'm going to scroll, this is a lengthy exhibit, so I'm not going to scroll through all of the bubbles, but I'm just going to scroll through a few pages so that you can get a sense of the two parties communicating. Now, in looking at these conversations, we see that the blue bubbles are from Anastasia. Who is operating the Anastasia profile on Telegram?
Brendan and I.
And then we see the green bubbles are from Joe. The owner is Joe.
Yeah.
Did you come to know who that person was, or did you learn who that person was?
Joe,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just when he came to the house that day, on the 24th.
I'm looking at page 2. Joe sends a message on February 20th that says, "I'm looking forward to Friday." Who chose February 24th, 2023 as the date?
Brendan.
And did he say why he chose that date?
He did say why, but right now I can't recall.
I'm going to scroll forward to page 28. Which I apologize for the scrolling, but. There is a photograph in one of Joe's posts that I'm going to try to blow up here. Take a look at the photograph. Do you see it in front of you?
Yes,
Did Brendan see that photograph?
he did.
And did he make any comments on that photograph?
Yeah,
What did he say?
but that was not the knife he was expecting the person to bring. When he asked about the knife, he was expecting a pointy knife. That would be easier.
All right. And I'm going to move down to page 41. On page 41, we see the Anastasia profile. Again, is that still you and Brendan?
Yes,
Okay. And the Anastasia profile says, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, I do have a dog. She's very nice, but she will be in the basement." Who sent that message?
Brendan.
I am going to terminate this view here. If I could ask for it to be terminated to the gallery. Before February 24th, 2023, the day of, did the defendant ask you to do other things to get ready?
Can you ask differently?
Sure. Did you keep the same cell phone that you initially obtained when you came to the US?
No.
Can you tell me about your cell phone in relation to the date of February 24th, 2023?
Yeah, a few days prior, Brendan told us to trade in our phones.
Okay. And did you do that?
Yes,
And why did you do that? Why was it necessary to get a new phone?
because he told me to get rid of my other phone where it had her pictures and other stuff, and because even if I reset my phone, it was to be able to see the things I had before.
And what about your Apple ID? Did you keep the same Apple ID?
No,
Why did you change Apple IDs?
because they also said that it would be able to see through my Apple ID the things I had on my phone before.
And did Brendan get a new phone as well?
He did.
Do you know, did it happen at the same time or at a different time than you?
A different time.
And was there anything, were there any changes to the home?
Yes.
And can you talk about that?
They changed all the windows in the house, and Brenda's description of the window was more soundproof. That's how I would say it. I'm not sure if that's how you call it, but that was the description.
Okay. And what, if anything, did he have you do with regard to that?
After they changed all the windows in the house, he told me for us to test, and he had told me to go up to the master bedroom, and he would be outside in the driveway, and he told me for me to scream from the master bedroom to see if he could hear anything from the driveway, but I didn't do it.
Okay. Did you do anything different instead?
Instead, he told me so I could go out in the driveway, and he would go up to the master bedroom, and he would be the one screaming, and I would just tell him whether or not I heard anything, and also from the backyard, because the back of the house had trail and neighbors, and he will make sure people wouldn't hear from there.
And did you do that?
I was out to see if I could hear him, yes,
And could you?
barely.
And then where did you usually park your car?
My car I would park normally in the driveway. Other times I'd park by the mailbox in the cul-de-sac.
And did you park it somewhere else in preparation for February 24th, 2023?
Yeah, the night before I parked in the cul-de-sac.
Why did you do that?
Brendan told me to do so because maybe Joe would come around to see what he was getting himself into, and or maybe in the morning, and then he would see a different car, and it would scare him away, and yeah.
And then, so those are all things that you did. Did the defendant do anything else in preparation for that day?
Yeah, he went around in the neighborhood, checking for ring cameras, doorbell cameras, the doors. He knew that our neighbor, he didn't have cameras, and our neighbor to our left, and our neighbor John in front of us also didn't have cameras, but he was checking for other neighbors, and also changing his routine so the day that happened, he wouldn't be odd that he was at McDonald's like 6 minutes away. So he started leaving the house earlier to go to work, and he would stop by somewhere else to eat breakfast or something, and yeah, and so that he wouldn't be odd.
Okay. How did the defendant know that Christine would be out of the home on that morning?
She was
Or, I'm
supposed,
sorry, how did the defendant know that Christine would be at home that morning?
yeah, she was scheduled to work that Friday morning. And he had told me that he would talk to her out of it to like change. And so instead of going to work on that morning, she would be off and she would be at home.
And what was the plan for you and Valerie to be out of the house?
He had said about telling her that Valerie and I would go to the zoo, spend all day at the zoo, and we would be leaving the house early. And so, yeah, that was the plan for me and Valerie.
When did you tell her about the plan?
I told her it was a few days prior to, but I told her in person because he didn't want any messages where I would be asking, telling her about it. So the conversation I had with her was in person a few days prior.
And you said the conversation was in person, and why? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah. Oh, you couldn't hear?
Yeah, why was the conversation in person?
So you don't have you don't be me requesting, telling her that we're going, asking to go, and yeah, so he wanted things in person.
And who wanted things in person?
Brendan.
Okay. Was there really an au pairs trip planned for the zoo that morning?
There was not.
When you woke up on the morning of the 24th, what happened first?
I woke up early. I think I had an alarm on my phone. And I went downstairs to the kitchen.
Do you recall what time you got up?
I would say 6 something.
Did you wake up Valerie that morning?
No, Brendan did.
And who brought Valerie to you that morning?
Brendan.
Did he say anything to you when he left Valerie with you?
She said Christine was asleep.
And what did you do next?
Next, I started getting her ready downstairs. And yeah, for now, I was just getting her ready, like in the living room downstairs.
Did you or Brendan text Joe that morning?
Yes.
And on what platform?
On what?
On what platform? How did you contact him?
A Telegram.
Okay. And in the Telegram messages, we can see instructions for Joe to park in the driveway.
What exhibit is this? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
What exhibit is this on the
Oh, I
screen?
apologize, Your Honor. This is Commonwealth 73.
73, so it's already in evidence, so
Yes, it is
we can
already in
publish it
evidence.
to the
Yeah.
jury. Thank you.
I apologize, I don't know exactly on what page. I'm just going to move on. I can't find the page at this moment. How is Joe supposed to get into the house?
I had told him during a phone call that the door would be unlocked.
Okay. And who unlocked the front door?
Brendan did, using Christine's cell phone.
And I'm going to show you, if I could have the view to be to counsel and the witness only at this point. Commonwealth's 231.
Was that 231?
231.
Thank you.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Do you know what that is? Do you recognize that?
I would say it's Christine's cell phone.
And do you recognize the app that is showing?
Yes, that's the tab that will control the front door lock and the thermostat in the house.
And is this the app that was used to unlock the door?
Yeah,
How is the door going to stay unlocked?
it has to be changed. It has to be deactivated through the app on the cell phone. The person can choose how many minutes the door is gonna
Okay.
lock and
Judge, at this point in time, I'm going to ask to admit Commonwealth's 231,
Any objection?
Okay.
All right, 231,
and that can be
gotcha,
published to the jury.
and published.
Yes. What did Brendan do with the phone, if anything, after he made sure that the door would stay unlocked?
he deactivated the door lock on her phone, and he turned it off and hid the phone in the drawer in the bar area we have, like in the kitchen.
And at this point, we can terminate the view.
All right.
Before the two of you left the house that morning, did you have any other conversation with Brendan?
No, he had, after I texted Joe, he said, Brendan told me he would be leaving the house at that moment, for me to wait a few minutes before leaving the house with Valerie.
What, if anything, did he give you in that morning before the two of you left?
Gun,
What kind of gun?
it's a handgun.
And what did you do with that?
I put it in my pocket, in my sweater.
Who was it that left the house first?
Brendan did.
And what was the plan for him that morning? Where was he going to go, and what was going to happen next?
He was going to stay, he was going to go to the McDonald's, which is, say 5-6 minutes away from our house by the clock tower, and he would stay there until whenever I call him.
And what were you supposed to do?
I was supposed to stay in the car with Valerie to put something on her iPad for her to watch. And as soon as I saw Juliana pulling up the driveway, I was supposed to give Christina a call, but her phone would be off, it would go to voicemail, and I was supposed to call him right away and tell him there was somebody strange coming to the house, and that I was scared, and yeah.
Okay. And so let's go step by step. Did you leave the house?
Yeah.
Did you go to the car?
Yes.
And did you put Valerie inside the car?
Yes.
And did you begin to put a show on for her?
Yeah, I was trying to connect her tablet on the Wi-Fi on my phone,
Okay.
so I could put on a show for her on Netflix.
And then what, if anything, did you see after that?
I think after a couple minutes, I do not know how many minutes passed. That's when I saw Joe pulling in the driveway, and I was still parked in the cul-de-sac, and I called Christine's phone and went to voicemail, and I called Brendan right after, as he had instructed me to do.
And did Brendan say why he wanted you to call Christine's phone and then call his phone?
Yeah, so then you'd have the history, the phone call history on her phone that I had tried to call her. Yeah.
And then what happened next? You said you saw Joe arrive. What, if anything, did you see him do?
He just went straight to the driveway, parked next to Christine's car, and I called. After I called Christine, I called Brendan, and then he picked up the phone, and I was telling him just the way he had said, and like there is somebody strange. I never come to the house. I'm scared, and he told me he would, for me to stay there. He would be coming home, and that he would try to also call Christine.
I'm going to go backwards a little bit. Do you recall when it was that Brendan told you, when Joe arrives, call Christine and then call me? Do you recall when he told you that?
It was throughout the whole process when I think he had all his plan in his mind, and then he just told me how things were going to happen. This is gonna happen. You do this, and then you do that, and that's gonna happen. But I cannot say for sure like the period like when that was. I cannot say it.
At this point, you've seen Joe Ryan go into the house. You've made your phone calls. What, if anything, happened at this point?
After I call Brendan, he says he's coming, and then a few minutes pass. Again, I don't know how many minutes, but it felt like forever. And he arrived. He parked his car next to the mailbox, and he got out the car. He was crossing the street, and I got out the car. I got Valerie out of the car too. Then we went following him to the back of the house, to the door that leads us into the basement.
Okay. And whose idea was it to go into the basement?
Brendan.
And whose idea was it for all of you to go into the basement?
Brendan.
And did all three of you go into the basement together?
Yeah.
And when you accessed the basement, did you go in through the front door of the house? Did you go in through the back door of the house? How did you get in?
The three of us got into the house through the basement door, which was in the back of the house.
And when the three of you went into the basement, did anyone lock the door to the outside that you had just come in after you went inside?
No. After when I inside, I did not recall locking the door or doing anything with the door.
Do you recall if their dog was in the basement when you went inside?
I saw her in a flash. And also because I knew she was going to be there in the basement. But what happened with her after that, I don't know.
Okay. Did she go upstairs with you?
What is it?
I'll move on. So is Valerie still with you at this point in time while you're in the basement?
Yes.
Okay. And so what did you do with Valerie?
Brendan had told us to stay there in the basement. And again, I knew we were supposed to stay there, she and I. And he went upstairs to the main floor.
Okay. And what if anything did you do?
I just stayed with her. And after a couple minutes passed by, and I had told her for you to like stay here. And then I I also went upstairs to the main floor.
Was that something that you decided to do, or was that a part of, was that something that you were told to do?
It was something I was told to do. It was part of his plan.
Say that again?
It was part of his plan.
Okay. And when you say it was a part of his plan, whose plan?
Brendan's.
Okay. So you left Valerie in the basement, and you said you went upstairs?
Mm-hmm.
When you got to the main level, did you or Brendan lock the door at the top of the basement stairs?
I do not recall doing that.
And what, if anything, did you do next?
When I got to the main floor, Brendan was standing at the bottom of the stairs that lead us upstairs. And he was just listening. Then he gestured to me for me to wait, just listen to the sound. And the sound was like slapping. When you're slapping somebody, that's the sound we could hear.
And what, if anything, happened after that?
I think we were listening to that sound for a few seconds, and he took his gun out, and because I also had the gun with me, I just did the same, and he proceeded to go upstairs, and I just followed him upstairs to the master bedroom.
Who opened the bedroom door?
Brendan?
Did you go inside the bedroom?
Yes.
And what did you see when you went inside the bedroom?
When we first get into the bedroom, I could see that the bed we have in the master bedroom was kind of tall. And so from my point of view, all I could see was like Joe at the moment. I knew it was Joe, like on top of Christine, in a way, I'll describe holding her down. And that was my first view as soon as I get into the bedroom.
Were you able to see Christine at all at that point?
At that point, no.
Did anyone say anything when the two of you went into the bedroom?
Yeah, when I got to the bedroom, Brendan said, he yelled, "Police officer." And Christine's first reaction, that was the first time I heard she say anything at that point. And she yelled back at Brendan, saying, "Brendan, he has a knife." And yeah, that's when Brendan first shot Joe.
Did you see Joe before he was shot?
Yeah,
What did he look like when he saw Brendan?
shocked.
After Brendan shot Joe, did anyone say anything?
If anyone said anything,
Yeah, did anyone say anything in the room at that point?
yeah, because Brendan ran to Christine. She was still on the floor, and I think that point she had seen me, and she had asked her what to do to Brendan. I think regarding to that he shot Joe, and she said my name. She told me, "Juliana, call 911."
And what did you do?
I called 911.
And what happened after you called 911?
At that point, Joe was already shot, so that's the sound in the background. And Brendan looks at me and just, in a way, for me, like to to hang up the call.
Did he tell you, did he say, Juliana, hang up the call?
No, he did not.
How did he communicate to you?
A gesture?
And what gesture did he make?
This.
And so what did you do after he made that gesture?
I hung up the phone, the phone call.
What, if anything, happened next?
Next, he was on top of Christine. Joe was laying there, and did that for me to grab a towel from the master bathroom. We have the closet, and I just ran to the master bathroom and grabbed him a towel and to bring it to him.
And at this point in time, could you see Christine?
Yes.
What did you see Brendan do next?
When I was bringing him the towel, he got on top of her, and that's when I first saw him stab her with a knife.
Where on her body was he stabbing her?
Her neck.
And were you able to see whether or not he stabbed her one time or more than one time?
When I first saw that happening, I ran to the other side of the bed, and I was just crouching down on myself and covering my ears and covering my eyes. And a few times I looked, and I was able to see him stabbing her, and he would stab, and other times he would hold the knife in a position how that was.
You said he was holding the knife in a position.
Yeah.
How was he holding it?
This position, I think when the way he stabbed, he was just kind of like holding it, putting pressure on it.
And was he just holding on to the knife at that point, or was he still stabbing her?
I was holding on to the knife.
Did you stab Christine at all?
I did not.
Did you touch Christine at all at this point?
No,
Did you get any blood on you?
I did.
And how did you get blood on you?
The blood on my hands, I remember, because at some point when he was stabbing her, I was kneeling, like, she was here, and Brenna was like stabbing her, and I came closer, and it was right here, and I knelt on the carpet, and I had put my hands on the carpet, and as soon as I felt blood, I just removed my hands from the carpet.
Why? What did the blood feel like?
It was warm.
Did you get blood on any other part of you?
Yeah. On it was on my shoes, but also on my socks.
How did you get blood on your shoes?
I was walking around, I would say freaking out, and I was pacing back and forth, and it was pacing and staying in place, covering my eyes and ears, and I didn't want to hear what their conversation, and so I don't truly know like how I got blood on my socks.
When did you take off your shoes?
When Brendan had told me 21, 28, he was telling me basically to go to the master, to the closet, to the safe, and he was telling me 21, 28, and it took me a while to know what he was talking about, and I was like, 21, 28, what? And we said safe, and before I started going to the closet, he told me take off your shoes, and I took off my shoes, and I proceeded going to the safe. I got my tiptoes, like with my socks on.
Why was it that you went to the safe?
Huh?
Why did you go to the safe?
Because it was also part of his plan, and for reasons I can't make sense of them now, given that I had the gun with me that morning. Yeah.
But he wanted you to go to the safe?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you a series of photographs at this point. And they are going to be Commonwealth 74, 75, 76, 77, and 78. And if I could have them displayed to the witness and counsel only, please.
Okay.
I'm going to scroll through these photos, and I'm going to ask you some questions about them. So this is Commonwealth 74, 75, 76, 77, and 78. Do you recognize these photos?
Yes.
And how do you recognize them?
These photos were taken at the police headquarters on the date that happened. And the last picture, it's a picture of my shoes and my socks.
And the photos that show us 74, 75, 76, and 77, are those a true and accurate depiction of the clothing that you were wearing that day?
Yes.
And is 78 a true and accurate depiction of the shoes and socks that you were wearing that day?
Yeah.
Judge, at this point in time, I would ask for the court to publish these to the jury.
Push them in evidence.
I'm sorry, if I could admit them into evidence and then publish them to the jury.
No objection from the defense, 75, 76, 77, and 78 in evidence. You can publish.
And I'm just going to click through them so that they can publish. And we can terminate that view, please.
Okay.
What did you do next?
Sorry.
What did you do next? After 21, 28, you went to the safe, came back. What did you do at that point?
At that point, that's when I stand in front of the dresser and the TV, and I'm telling Brendan that Joe is moving. He was moving, and Brendan, he doesn't have any reaction to that whatsoever. And I just start telling him, he's moving, he's behind you, and that's when I fired the shot too.
That's when could you say that again?
I fired
And when you say you fired what?
a gun
The gun that was where?
in my that I had in my pocket, the handgun.
Did you hit anyone?
Yes,
Who'd you hit?
Joe.
What happened after you shot Joe?
After I shot him, he falls back. And
Did you see Brendan touch Joe's body after you shot him?
touching, no.
Did you see him interacting with Joe or Christine after you shot Joe?
Well, he was still stabbed in Christine, and he got her blood in a handful of blood, and he starts dripping on Joe's body.
Did you ever call 911 again?
Yes,
Why did you call 911 again?
I called 911 again when he told me Brendan told me he was ready for me to call.
And when you made that call, do you recall what you said?
I think I do not remember everything he said. I remember saying that I guess a friend of mine was being stabbed and somebody was shot, and I couldn't talk the rest of the call, so Brendan took the lead, and he was the one talking to the responder on the phone call.
Did the police arrive that day after you called 911?
They did.
What did you do when the police arrived?
The person on the phone, the 911, she told me to not hang up on the phone and go make sure the front door is open. And so I went downstairs to make sure the door was open. And that's when they were already at the door at that point.
And that day, on the day that the murders took place, did you speak to the police that day?
Yes. I think the first time I spoke to the police was in the driveway, and they took Valor and I to the police headquarters.
Did you talk to the police when you got to headquarters?
Yes.
And did you tell the detectives that you spoke with that day about the things that you testified to here today?
Though that what I told the detectives that day, it was the version Brendan had told me. If I was ever to talk to a lawyer or this is ever going to happen, like this is what happened. The version I told the detectives that day, and that I eventually also told his lawyer the same version.
Ms. Bristler, is this a good break point for the day?
Yes.
Possibly? Yes. All right, you want to check with?
Judge, if I could have 1 moment.
Yes.
Yes, Judge, this is a fine place to stop.
All right, just stay right there, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, since it's 5 o'clock, we're going to go ahead and release you for the day. Just a reminder tonight, don't look at any news, don't look at any social media, do not talk to anybody about this case, and please do not do any outside research, okay? And Deputy Johnson will take you back, and just make sure you get here tomorrow at the correct time so we can start right on time tomorrow at 10 a.m., okay? Perfect, thank you. All right, ma'am, just as a reminder, since you're still testifying, it's important that you do not talk to anybody about this case or your testimony. That includes the prosecutors or the defense attorney, okay? You are allowed to talk to your attorney, Mr. Campbell, who for the record is present in the courtroom today, okay?
Okay.
All right, so you're excused until tomorrow morning,
Thank you.
all right? All right, anything further for this evening?
Yes, Judge, I'd like to.
You want to approach? Sure.